Hi all, in this lab we're gonna configure VLAN basics. Uh, this is our third lab, so let's start. Here we have the topology. We have two switches, switch 1, switch 2. We have three VLANs. VLAN 1 will be the management VLAN. That switch 1 and switch 2 will be in the management VLAN, VLAN 1, VLAN 10 and VLAN 20. VLAN 10, the name will be sales, and it will be in the network 10.1.1.0. And VLAN 20 will be in the network 10.1.2.0 name operations. We will have those PC1, PC2, PC5, PC6 in VLAN 10. We will have PC3, 4, 7, and 8 in VLAN 20. We have to configure the trunk port between the switches. We have to configure the VLANs, and we have to verify the connectivity between VLANs. So let's start with the configuration. Okay. Well, first we're going to configure the switch VLAN interfaces. It will be in VLAN 1. This will be the IP address. This is the IP address for switch 1, and this is the IP address for switch 2. And let's start. These IP addresses in these VLANs, they are only for management use. So if you configure the IP addresses in both switches, you can ping the switch and you can make a telnet session and SSH session for making configurations. That's the name of management VLANs. Enable conft. So let's start interface VLAN 1 IP address. It is in the subnet and the net 192.168.0.1. This is the IP address, mask 24 bits. So 192.168.0.1. As it's at 24-bit, we have to put 255, 255, 255.0, and we have to apply a shutdown command. Enable. So show IP interface brief will show me if I configure that VLAN and it's VLAN 1, it's up. Okay. Let's configure the other switch. Let's make the configuration on the other switch. Enable conft interface VLAN 1. IP address 192.168.0.2. 24-bit mask 255, 255, 255.0, no shutdown. Okay, so now that we have configured the IP addresses on the management VLANs, I can ping to the other switch. So let's try a ping 192.168.0.1. And we have a success rate of 80%. That's right. So let's start configuring the VLANs. It's very easy. Conf t. The only thing you have to make it's VLAN 10. Name sales. Okay. Now we can configure VLAN 20. Just put VLAN 20. Name production. So let's verify our configuration. Show VLAN brief. This is VLAN 1. It's the default VLAN. All the ports comes in the default VLAN by default. And these VLANs we have created now. VLAN 10 is sales VLAN. VLAN 1020 is production VLAN. Now the next step is to put fast Ethernet 0 and 1. We have to put in VLAN 10. And we have to put fast Ethernet 010 and 011, 010 and 011 in production VLAN in VLAN 20. Because now I have created these VLANs, but we have all ports in the default VLAN. So we have to configure the ports that they could be in their respective VLANs. So let's start. conft interfaces fast Ethernet 01. First, we have to put switchport mode access. What is switchport mode access? Switchport mode access is telling the switch that this port is an end device port. What's an end device port? An end device port, it's a PC, it's a printer, it's a server. It's a server, it's a printer. So this is an end device port. So we have to put switchport mode access. Okay. And then we have to put switchport access VLAN 10. Now let's interface fast Ethernet 02 switchport mode access switchport access VLAN 10. Okay, so let's verify our configuration. Show VLAN brief. Okay, now we have fast Ethernet 01 and 02 in VLAN 10 sales. Now let's put 11 and 10 in VLAN 20. Conf. Now, well, you can use another command if you are configuring multiple ports. It's easier that you can use interface range fast Ethernet 0, 10 to 11. This range means that you can configure multiple ports in one time. You will save a lot of time if you use range ports. So conf if range, it means that we are configuring fast Ethernet 010 and fast Ethernet 0011 with the same configuration. So let's switch port mode access. That means that it's an end device, PC, printer, webcam. Now switch port access VLAN 20. As you see, we made a range configuration and we have, with these lines, we have configured both ports. So and show VLAN brief. Yes, we have here VLAN 20 production, fast Ethernet 010 and 011 in VLAN 20. Now let's configure interface gigabit 01. Conf interface gigabit 01. Okay. Switch port trunk encapsulation. .1q, we are specifying the protocol. .1q is a multi-vendor protocol. You can use this protocol not only in Cisco switches, but in Extreme switches or HP switches, whatever switches they can configure trunk ports. They use .1q. And then switch port mode trunk. Okay, that means that this switch is in mode trunk now. So we want to verify show interfaces trunk. We are reading here that gigabit 01 we're allowing the pass traffic from VLAN 1, 10, and 20. Now this port is configured. By default, this port is configured too. Cisco switches comes by default with a port configuration in dynamic auto. There are 4 types of port configurations. It's dynamic auto, dynamic desirable, access, as these PCs are in access because they are end devices, and trunk. This is trunk because we're making a link between switches and we need to pass traffic between VLANs. As I was telling you that the default configuration of the switches is dynamic auto. When you configure a trunk port in one switch and the other port is in dynamic auto, this port automatically will put in a trunk state. So let's check this. Interface gigabit show interfaces trunk. Show interfaces trunk. If you see gigabit 01, it's in trunk. Status trunk mode auto. But the best practice is that you can configure in both switches the trunk. So let's configure in both switches the trunk. We want to follow the best practices. Conft interface gigabit 01 switch port trunk encapsulation .1q switch port mode trunk. Now show interfaces. Show interfaces trunk. As we see, we have here this mode change. It's on. Here it was auto because the port was as default comes with dynamic auto. But as we configure the port and mode trunk, now the trunk is on. And well, here we only have VLAN 1 because this switch, we haven't configured VLAN 10 and 20 yet. But I want to explain you another thing. In the real world, you don't have to, in most switches, you don't have to use the trunk encapsulation .1q configuration because it's already come by default. But I decided to make in these switches that are 3560 because in the Ccna exam you will have to put encapsulation. If you have a question that asks you to configure VLANs, you will have to put the trunk encapsulation .1q and then switch per mode trunk. But in the real world, it's more similar than configuring these switches like this. Here you only will have to put switch per mode trunk and that's all. So let's try here. Enable conft interface gigabit 01 switch port mode trunk, and that's all. Show interfaces trunk. As you see, we have gigabit 01 in trunk. We haven't put the trunk encapsulation .1q. It's not necessary because it comes by default, the trunk. But as we are studying for the Ccna lab, for the Ccna exam, we have to make the things as like the exam. In the exam, you will have to put switch port trunk encapsulation .1q and then you have to put switch port mode trunk as these layer free switches. So okay, let's configure the VLANs. We already make this configuration of trunk ports. So conft VLAN 10, name it sales, then exit VLAN 20, name is production. Okay, show VLAN brief, we're verifying, sales production. Okay, show interfaces trunk. Okay, in this part we are allowing to pass traffic from VLAN 1, VLAN 20, and VLAN 1, VLAN 10, and VLAN 20. As we know, each VLAN is a broadcast domain. How many broadcast domain I have in this switch? We have 3 broadcast domains. One for VLAN 10, one for VLAN 20, and another for VLAN 1. This is that is another question from a usually question from the Ccna exams. So let's configure the ports on the VLAN. Conft interface range fast Ethernet 0, 1 through 2, switch port mode access because they are end devices, and switch port access VLAN 10. Now interface range fast Ethernet 0, 10 through 11, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 20. Okay, let's verify, show VLAN brief. You always have to use the these commands, the show commands, because many questions in the exam, in the Ccna exam, are only show, and you have to get accustomed to use these commands, because in the exam there is there are a lot there are questions that you have to use show IP route, show interface status, show IP interface brief, and it's always good that you get accustomed to use the show command. Now here we already set fast Ethernet 01 and 02 in VLAN 10. They are no more in VLAN 1 because we set them in VLAN 10, and fast Ethernet 10 and 11 in VLAN 20. Okay, that's right. Now we finish our configuration. We can verify with show running config. Fast Ethernet 01 VLAN 10 mode access. This is a default. 02 VLAN 10 mode access. Now let's go. 010 VLAN 20 mode access. 011 VLAN 20 mode access. We have the VLAN interfaces, IP addresses, and here we have the VLAN interfaces, IP addresses, and we have the trunk encapsulation. And okay, that's all. So let's start verifying our configuration. We're telling that we have to put VLAN 10 in subnet 1 and VLAN 20 in subnet 2. As it's a 24-bit, we can put any IP address that goes from 1 through 254. So let's start VLAN 10. It's VLAN 10 is in network 1. So 10.1.1.1 255.255.255.0 for a 24-bit mask. Here 10.1.1 10.1.1.2 255.255.255.0 10.1.1.3 255.255.255.0 10.1.1.4 255.255.255.0. It's a best practice that you always have VLANs in different subnets. You can have the same subnet into VLANs, but it's not a best practice. And if you are configuring in the exam a VLAN configuration, you have to put the pieces in different subnets. So here VLAN 10, it's subnet 1, and VLAN 20 will be in subnet 20, 10.1.1.2.1, 255.255.255.0, 10.1.2.2, 255.255.255.0, 10.1.2.3, 255.255.255.0, 10.1.2.4, 255.255.255.0. Okay, so let's start verifying our configuration. I will ping this PC. Ping 10.1.1.2. Okay, that's right. Now I'm gonna ping PC5. Ping 10.1.1.3. Okay, that means that our trunk link, it's functioning. .4. Okay, that's right. Now let's ping VLAN 20. VLAN 20 10.1.2.1. I'm sorry, ping 10.1.2.2. I'm pinging from this PC to this other PC. Okay, that's right. Now let's ping this PCs. That 3, pinging to this PC. Okay, success. Now pinging to this PC. Success. Okay, that's right. Now, one last thing I want to tell you is that as we configure VLANs, we are separating broadcast domain. This can be a security configuration too, as these PCs won't have communication to these PCs. So just for purpose, I can explain you better. We have these PCs in 10.1.1.2. If I put this PC 10 in 10.1.1.10, if there were no VLANs configured in the switch, that was surely that I can ping from this PC to this PC because they are in the same subnet. Because I am in subnet 1 and this is in subnet 1, but I will ping 10.1.1.2. You notice here that I can ping this PC. The reason is because this PC it's in another VLAN, this PC is in VLAN 10, and this PC is in VLAN 20. That's the reason why I cannot ping. And for security reasons, VLANs are used too, because you can separate traffic from one devices from other to other devices. So let's here we're gonna change again. It's 2, 1. Okay. So that's all, folks. Hope you enjoyed this lab. Hope I can help you in your CCNA exam. And I will leave you in the description of the video the links of the labs so you can download the labs and you can try it by yourself. Thank you.